What's up, guys? My name is Zach, and today I am driving a 1988 Mazda MX-6 GT. Up front is a 2.2-liter turbocharged inline-4, and down below is a 5-speed manual transmission. Now, I am super excited to be driving this here MX-6 for a couple of reasons. Now, I've reviewed a base model before, and I'll leave that video at the end of this one, but this is the turbo model. This comes with the Turbo 2.2 in the GT trim level, which I am so excited to share with you guys today. But before we get on to anything else, I have a website, zackpradel.com, where you can buy stickers and other merchandise when it becomes available. You could also submit your own vehicle to be reviewed by me through a quick and easy submission form, and you get a video of your car just like this one. And you could read my behind the scenes blog to see what I'm filming before it comes out on the channel. But let's get back to that turbocharged 2.2-liter under the hood. Well, it makes about 145 horsepower, which isn't a whole lot by modern standards. However, it does add a punchy fun to this car. I didn't dislike the standard MX-6, but this is just punching a little bit above the base model, and I really like that. Plus, it's an 80s turbo car, meaning it's not as efficient as modern turbos, but you get cool verbiage like intercooled turbo, and I can listen to the song Turbo Lover in this car and not feel any guilt for being a liar like I used to in my Miata. The MX-6 does have some pretty good induction noises for that turbo, which I think is really cool. And overall, it's just unique to be driving a GT turbo. Now, what came with that engine in the GT trim is that I also get all the interior amenities of the other trim levels, but I get added rear disc brakes, which is fantastic. And although this car wasn't originally equipped with it, the 1989's were the first model year to have it, this actually does have the 4-wheel rear steering added to it. So from 1989 till the end of this car's production in 92, they actually had 4-wheel steering, which is another fun 90s quirk. All right, let's see. Turbo MX-6. Holy crap! My face didn't quite melt off, but I did not expect that out of the MX-6. The MX-6 has kind of always been a lunk, but that actually ripped. That was pretty neat. Like I said, paired to it, 5-speed manual transmission. I love it. It's shifting great, feels fantastic, and yeah, the bushings are worn, but I still know what I'm doing. That's what I love about Japanese manual transmissions, is that even though the bushings could be shot out of a rocket ship or chewed up by a Rottweiler, they still feel better than American counterparts, which is fantastic. Last but not least, the Mazda MX-6 Turbo is front-wheel drive. So with that stuff out of the way, let's talk about the interior. Well, in front of me, I have a bunch of very plain gauges. On the left, I have my coolant temperature and tachometer. On the right, I have my speedometer and fuel. And then I get a bunch of warning lights down in the center. Very 80s to show off those warning lights even when they're not on. The steering wheel is very Mazda. I love the thumb horn buttons, very typical of the era, and I like the little Mazda badge in the center. Moving off to the left, I do have a climate control vent and rear defroster. But moving down below, I have my gauge dimmer switch, fog lights, mirror adjustments, and then I have 3 different suspension modes. So the GT also got adjustable suspension, so I could set it to soft, normal, or sport, which is fantastic. Such a cool 80s quirk as well, and I love seeing that here in the MX-6. Moving on to the door, I just have my latch to get in and out, and my power windows down below, a big grab handle, and things of that nature. Moving into the center, I do have a digital clock, as well as more climate control vents, of which they actually oscillate. So something you don't really see in cars anymore is oscillating vents. A very cool 80s Japanese car quirk. Then I get the climate controls themselves. I do have air conditioning. It was hard to find an MX-6 back in the day that didn't have AC. The very base model could come without AC if you didn't option it, but this one did, which is nice. Then I do have a pull-out ashtray and 12-volt outlet and the radio. I love this factory radio. I love all of the different equalizers. Down at the bottom it says Mazda on or defeat. I love the verbiage of that stuff. I love 80s verbiage when it comes to technology. Then I do get 2 little storage cubbies, and then we got to talk about the shifter. The shifter is tall, it's very rubbery, and it's not very luxurious. It looks like it was just made out of a ball of clay and put in a kiln for a couple hours. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but it just doesn't feel very GT, if I'm being quite honest. However, like I said, the bushings do feel amazing, even though time has not been too kind to them. Then I do get more cubby space and the handbrake, and then I get the center console. Now the center console is dual opening, which is very, very cool. And again, something you don't really see too much of anymore. However, what is missing down here is a cup holder. So the 1988 Mazda MX-6 GT fails the big friggin' bottle test. Now we gotta talk about the seats. The seats are very comfortable actually, and they are sporty. They do have higher bolsters than what you'd normally see in this era, and I like that. They sort of hold you in, they're aggressive. And I like that out of this little sports coupe. But speaking of seats, we do have back seats, so let's go do a back seat review. Oh, I already know this is gonna be a bad time. All right, so we're in the back of the 1988 Mazda MX-6 GT, and actually not that bad back here. Now the headliner is sagging, it's an 80s car, what can you do? But actual space back here, not bad. My knees have space, my head would have space, but unfortunately the headliner is kind of getting in the way, but other than that, not bad. All right, so we're on the back of the MX-6 GT. Lift the whole thing up, and as you can see, tons and tons of space in the back of the MX-6. I've always loved that about this era of cars. 80s cars really knew how to do trunks, and that's very obvious here. I don't get anything crazy back here, unfortunately, no crazy features or anything like that, but still very cool to see. Now we gotta talk about the looks, and I really, really love the look of the MX-6. I think this car looks fantastic, and I just really love this simplistic styling from Mazda. 80s Mazdas are some of the best looking cars in my opinion. Now, I might be slightly biased because I do own an 85 RX-7, seen here, but that's why I own it, because I love it so much. I love this design language, and I love the sedans and coupes that they were making at the time too. I like the little headlights. I like the sort of angular, but not super square body design. I don't know, it just really, really resonates me for many, many reasons. But now, let's get on to my final thoughts. What do I think finally driving an MX-6 GT, the turbo model of the MX-6? Well, it's fantastic. I love this thing. Oh yeah. This thing is a boatload of fun. It's not as dialed in chassis-wise as, say, the Mazda Miata or RX-7 of the same sort of era. But it is genuinely really, really fun to drive, which is also unfortunate because no one ever really thinks of these. When you think of buying like an 80s sport coupe, the MX-6 doesn't really ring a bell immediately. And that's a shame because this thing is really, really good. It's really fun. I love this. And I just love what Mazda was doing in this era. Mazda just has so much personality, and maybe that is because they're the lesser known brand. Maybe that is because they're sort of the underdog, and I've always liked that about Mazda. You know, Toyota and Honda have been at each other's throats for 50 years, and Nissan has been punching in that battle as well. Well, Mazda has always felt like the little brother that wants to get in but doesn't quite know how. And so, in that sibling struggle, Mazda has developed its own personality, its own identity. It has had a character development in ways that Nissan, Honda, and Toyota haven't. And that's very clear here. This is a weird turbocharged coupe with a manual from the 80s. It's so interesting and different. And it's more interesting to me than most of the Toyotas and Hondas and Nissans of the era. At least in wow factor and what the heck is that factor. I think this checks all of those boxes really, really well, and I really, really love that about this car. I'm so glad Kevin and I were able to make this happen. Huge thank you to Kevin for letting me take out his turbo MX-6. This is just such a cool experience, especially for such a big Mazda fan like me. This is another vehicle checked off my never-ending list of reviewing every Mazda ever made, but at least it's a small drop in the bucket. So, huge thank you to Kevin. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to rate the video, comment on the video, and subscribe if if you really liked it. Take care, guys.